Welcome back. In the last few years, tens of thousands of trees have had to be cut down on Long Island because of invading beetles that will otherwise kill the trees they infested. But state officials say they're now turning the tide, pointing to success in eliminating the Asian longhorn beetle in the town of Islip, even as they have new grant money to plant even more trees. Take a look. In front of the cameras, officials from many agencies congratulated themselves on word of a big new federal grant from the U.S. Agriculture Department by replanting the first of dozens of trees in Marjorie Post Park in Massapequa. These newly planted trees now stand in the shadow of the trees that had to be cut down 3 years ago because they were infested by the Asian longhorn beetle.
We're here today to announce an extension till the end of 2018. To plant more trees.
Crews have already replanted 1,000 trees. The new $300,000 grant will now pay to replant 1,000 more. In 2013, the beetle's distinctive and destructive boring holes showed up in thousands of trees along the South Shore. The state decided all the infected trees needed to be cut down. The aggressive effort meant cutting down hundreds of trees in several communities, leaving some blocks completely bare, like this one in Farmingdale. Seaford homeowner Gary Gus was one of those who lost a tree.
I had no choice but to cut the tree down, and he got rid of the whole thing.
How did you feel about that?
Oh, it's a tree. Since I bought the house, I lived there 17 years.
In neighboring Massapequa Park, homeowner Jeff Sabo says crews recently came asking to check his trees.
They looked on my property, they say, you're fine, you're okay, and they're going to every other neighbor.
We are tree climbers from the Department of Agriculture.
And homeowners in affected communities will also see much more of this. Tree climbers scaling trees on their property. The new federal money pays for the crews to go high up into the trunk to spot a beetle's telltale tracks before it can take over a neighborhood. And joining us now are Nicholas Bates from the Cornell University Cooperative Extension of Nassau County and John Wernett from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. And Mr. Wernett, we have some news that there's new money for this effort coming from the state and Governor Cuomo, right?
That's right. We're very thankful for the governor's leadership in the combating of invasive species.
$3 million.
Correct.
So, I mean, there's a big beetle problem overall. We were talking about Asian longhorn in your case, but then there are these southern pine beetles, right?
Right.
Talk about the devastation they've caused.
So the southern pine beetle is a native to the south, but because of climate change has moved further north. And we're hoping that this new money will further the battle of containing the beetle and stopping the spread.
Yeah, because that's very difficult, isn't it? I mean, it was a hard decision in the first place, Nicholas, that we had to decide to cut down these trees, but that was really the only way to deal with it. Explain why that is.
Because the beetle will continuously spread out from that one tree. They'll keep laying eggs and rehatching as that same tree, and they usually go about 1/8 of a mile out from that tree, and they'll infest every host species around.
And you've got to deal with the Asian longhorn beetle in the particular program, and you get $300,000 federal grant that we just profiled there that'll help you replant another 1,000 trees besides those you've already planted. So how do these Asian longhorn beetles get here in the first place, and are they still coming in?
I don't know if they gave it 100% proof, but I think the theory was pointing towards pallets from shipments from China. And
yeah, that maybe landed in Brooklyn and then worked their way east.
Staten Island, too.
How do we stop that from happening again? Is there some controls in place that they work with? I know this is stuff you don't have control over.
I think the biggest thing is making sure the pallets are kiln dried and they go through appropriate shipping processes in order to stop the larvae. Now,
the spread of the southern pine beetle, I would think, is strictly because of the warming, because now the beetles themselves are migrating north. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty hard to stop. That's nature.
Right, right. And that's the thing is with the Asian longhorn beetle, it can be eradicated they've shown successes in Manhattan. But with southern pine beetle, it's here to stay, so it's more of an ongoing battle.
Yeah, because homeowners, they have an emotional attachment to these trees.
Absolutely do.
We're talking about trees on people's properties, not just in forests or state parks. You saw that one gentleman there. He was kind of heartbroken they had to bring his tree down. You must run into that when you tell people the bad news when one's infested, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I was struck by is these tree climbers from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You guys all work in coordination together to do this ridding of the beetles and then replanting of the trees. How are the tree climbers deployed, Nicholas?
They have little survey plots, and they find blocks that are easy to spread out for geospatial information systems, so they can easily scout that area and figure out. They put probably about 300 houses in one spot, and they'll go check out all the trees in the 300
Wow.
houses.
So if you see these folks walking down your block, you know what's coming. They're going to be asking to go up in your trees. And they can ask, or is that, what's the requirement there? You have to obey that if asked?
I think they knock on your door and they'll check the trees in your front yard, but I don't think if you have like a fenced-in backyard, they go through without your permission.
Because they're trying to help, right, Mr. Wharton?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Wharton, they're trying to help you, and so they don't really want to come on your property if unnecessary, but what, you might spot some signs that indicate there's a beetle infestation? Is that why you would do it? Explain that a little bit.
Right, and that's administered through our sister agency, so New York State Agriculture and Markets. So.
Do you feel like we're turning the tide here? I know that at that news conference the other day, they said you've managed to eliminate it from the town of Islip. That's true, right?
Yeah. I think the eradication process is going really well because the numbers from 2015 when they started finding infested trees, they took about 4,000 trees between 2015 to 2016, or I'm sorry, 2014 to 2016, and now the numbers are in probably the low 50s.
So it's dropping. Meanwhile, you're planting more trees.
Right.
How long do you have to wait after you cut down a tree before you can replant the next one? Can you put a tree right back in the ground there?
Try to wait till that tree is removed before, so that way there's no damaging the new tree when they remove that tree.
And explain a little bit about the danger of this spreading if you try to handle it yourself and why you need some pros, right? Explain that, Mr. Mornett.
Right. That, and the important thing to point out is the new trees are non-host species. So if there are any beetles that do emerge, that there aren't host tree species that could be newly infested.
Plus, if you do it yourself, like if you cut down the tree, you don't really know the integrity of what's going to happen to that
Right,
when it's
very
disposed.
dangerous.
And that could spread it further, no?
It could potentially, and you could injure yourself or your home.
So what tips can you give homeowners and for them to detect the possible spread of this on their own property?
If you see something, say something, and there's a toll-free number to call.
You can do that as well. And then we're going to see more of this right here. What advantage do the tree climbers have over somebody just walking down the street? Because you would think that maybe these nests, are they only high up or sometimes are they lower?
They find them high up, and if the tree's highly infested, they'll go all the way down to the ground.
Wow.
They usually start from the top and go down. And then the holes are only the size of a dime, so if they're in the top of the tree, they're really hard to see with binoculars, so you usually have to climb the tree to find all of them.
Well, you know, it's definitely a crowd gathering act, because I tell you, it's a high wire act. People were loving just watching them go up in the trees. It looked like a fun job, actually. So 1,000 more trees are going to get replanted over what time period?
We're going to try to plant them by the end of 2018.
Well, we really appreciate your efforts. We appreciate the fact that you guys came on and talked about this with us today. John Warnett from the State Department of Environmental Conservation Forestry Department, and Nicholas Bates from the Cornell University Cooperative Extension of Nassau County. And if they come looking at your trees, now you know why. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. And we'll be right back.